I'm Cynthia Johnson, the other half of the Dr. J Show. We just concluded a very successful Camp Shawnee. Hope to see you here someday.
Bigfoot, a 50-year journey come full circle by Dr. Matthew A. Johnson. I'm Willie Rose, and we are on Chapter 22, reading the book. This is entitled The Southern Oregon Interaction Area, or SOIA. In early January of 2016, I drove out to the area of the vision that was given to me. I was eager to find it and proceed to the next level of relationship development with the Bigfoot forest people. Since Cynthia had to return home to Washington in order to go back to work, I asked a mutual friend of ours to tag along with me on this new adventure. Therefore, Jill Ligda joined me in my F-150 pickup truck as we navigated the logging roads for several hours. I always prefer to have one or more witnesses accompany me in order to verify and validate my experiences. The first area we stopped at down a dead-end logging road just didn't feel like it was the right spot to me. Nevertheless, Jill wanted to get out of the truck and check out the area. I parked the truck and we started looking around. Within a minute or less, we had found a snapped-over tree, branches woven together, and some very large Bigfoot tracks walking through the area and up a hill. Although Jill was excited, I told her that I wanted to keep looking because this just didn't feel like the spot to me. We climbed back into the truck and continued driving up and down logging roads for a few hours. Then I turned down a logging road, followed it for several miles, and ended up in a rather large area that would be perfect for a base camp. We drove down a skidder road leading away from this large area until I was forced to turn my truck around and head back to the base camp. Jill got out of the truck and stood by the edge of the road, guiding me so I wouldn't go over the steep embankment. I went forward and backwards, forward and backwards, and forward and backwards until I successfully turned my truck around. Then I parked my truck and killed the engine. Jill stood outside the truck by the driver's door as I remained in my seat. I thanked her for helping me to turn my truck around. Suddenly, we both heard what sounded like 4 very loud foot stomps on the hillside about 60 feet below us. Then we saw a very tall, skinny tree get pulled to the left and then pushed back over to our right and onto the ground. The tree had been snapped right in front of our eyes. If that wasn't a major confirmation from our Bigfoot forest people friends that we had found the new area where they wanted us to come to, I don't know what is. I climbed out of my truck and stood on the road, looking down the hillside with Jill. We couldn't see anything or anyone who could have snapped the tree over. It was pretty obvious to both of us that we had a cloaked Bigfoot forest person in our midst. We said, "Hello," and thanked him for the confirmation. Then we sat down on the nearby log. Jill looked over at me and said, "This is pretty overwhelming for you, isn't it?" "I can tell by the look on your face," I responded. "Yes, it is. When I was given the vision to find the new location, I didn't think that it was going to happen so fast. I most certainly didn't think that 4 loud stomps and a tree being pushed over right in front of our faces would accompany it, although I have to admit that it was pretty cool." Jill said, "Yes, that was very cool." As we climbed back into the pickup truck, as Jill previously stated, I was very overwhelmed by the very overt interaction displayed to confirm the fact that we had successfully arrived at the new location. We drove back down the skidder road to the very large base camp area. I parked the truck again, and Jill and I got out to explore the area. We hiked up a trail and found several large Bigfoot forest people tracks in the ground. We also found some very large trees that had been lifted, stacked, and woven in ways that no human being could have performed. After some lengthy hiking, we sat down on a log to rest. As we were sitting there and talking, we could both tell that we were being watched. It was a very cool sensation. I saw an orb flash to my right. Our conversation continued until we heard a very loud thud on the log just to my right. I looked down on the ground, and there sat a very large pine cone that had been chucked at the log in order to get our attention. It most definitely did not fall from the tree above because there were no trees with pine cones on them in the surrounding area. Another confirmation that we had arrived at the right spot. Jill said, "Well, they're going out of their way to let you know that you're in the right spot." I nodded my head in agreement. She looked at my face and asked, "Still overwhelmed?" I responded, "Yep. Still overwhelmed, but in a very happy way. I'm actually blown away by just how quickly this all has happened. I was thinking that the guiding process was going to take 6 to 12 months. I didn't think we would find the area during our first trip out here. As we walked back toward the base camp, I heard some tree knocks emanating from the base camp area. I was hoping that we might have some visible guests waiting for us upon our arrival, but no such luck. All I could think of in my mind was how grateful I was that SOIA had been breached and that I was being moved on in such an overwhelming and incredibly awesome manner. I don't think that too many people can claim that they were given a vision and led to their spot in the woods to be with the Bigfoot forest people. This was truly special. Jill and I drove on the logging roads and eventually left the area and re-entered civilization with homes, livestock, cars, and roads. I felt compelled to stop my truck and get out to snap a couple of pictures of the mountains and surrounding area so I could send a picture to Cynthia so she could know what the vision looked like that the Bigfoot forest people had given to me earlier. As I stood on the road and faced the mountains, I snapped 3 quick pictures with my cell phone. I'm always in the habit of taking several pictures in the hope that at least one of them will actually turn out nice. I dropped Jill off and returned home. I began to look through my cell phone pictures because I wanted to send the right picture to Cynthia that would give her the best representation of the vision that was given to me in my mind. As I reviewed the 3 pictures in order to choose one of them, I eventually noticed something that I missed at first. Clearly, in the first picture, there was a distant orb up in the clouds far away from me. In the second picture, the orb had descended and came closer to me. In the third picture, the orb was up close and personal to me. I took those 3 pictures over a 5-second period of time. In other words, that orb covered a whole lot of ground in a very short period of time. It was like it was descending to say goodbye to us and confirming once again that we were in the right place. As planned, I sent the pictures to Cynthia and didn't say a word to her. She spotted the descending orb immediately and was equally blown away. She agreed with me that we had obviously found the right spot. Not that long afterwards, I drove out to SOIA to spend one night all by myself. While I was out there, I saw 2 different orbs, heard several tree knocks, saw a Bigfoot forest person standing at the 2 o'clock position on the perimeter watching me for over 15 minutes, and heard what sounded like young ones talking to each other just barely within earshot. As I slept out in the open on my cot that night, I heard footsteps walk up to the head of my cot. Then he squatted down beside my cot and audibly stated his name to me, "Onks," I asked in my mind. "Is that your name, Onks?" He replied, utilizing mind speak. "Yes, my name is Onks. I am Seska's cousin, and I am now your guardian since you have been moved to our home." I replied, "Thank you for having me in your home." Onks stood up and walked away. Shortly thereafter, I brought Alyssa Runs with Wolves out to SOIA with me. Talk about a ball of energy. I want whatever she has because I believe that we could provide power for the whole city of Grants Pass, Oregon. I'm not talking about hyperactive energy. I'm referring more to a zest for life and a connection to the earth. When I took her out to SOIA for a day trip, she immediately spotted a big blue orb along the way. Amazing. When we parked in the very large base camp area and got out of the pickup truck, she immediately commented on the energy that she could feel in the area. We hiked on a trail and found Bigfoot tracks in large trees that had been moved in ways that aren't possible for humans to do. We hung a right and started hiking up the side of a mountain on an old abandoned skidder road. The road had to have been abandoned about 40 or 50 years ago. While Alyssa and I were hiking up the skidder road, it became apparent to both of us that something or someone had been placing freshly snapped trees and torn branches in piles. The very large piles appeared to be created as barriers and obstacles to prevent the ascension to the top of the ridgeline. Nevertheless, we made it to the top in spite of the strategically placed vegetative debris. Also, I must say that I felt like a majorly out of shape old fart while hiking up the hill. Why? Well, because Alyssa could have run up to the top of the hill, back down to the bottom, and back up to the top again before I reached the ridgeline. She was very patient with me along the way. It was a beautiful sunny day, and we enjoyed our stroll along the top of the ridgeline. There was nothing significant up there on the top. However, Alyssa noticed a line of energy up on the top of the ridgeline. Perhaps there were one or more portals up there. Who knows? The scenic views were certainly worth the hike to the top. On our way back down the mountainside, we stopped over by some very large stumps. Alyssa thought she had seen something large near one of the stumps. By the time we got there, whatever she had seen had either run away or had cloaked itself. While continuing our hike back down to the bottom of the hill, I couldn't help but notice that it appeared that a couple more snapped trees and branches may have been added to the various piles while we were at the top of the ridgeline enjoying the views. A couple of weeks later, Mike Kincaid and Patrick Epistemon visited SOIA. Both were free to explore the area on their own and took advantage of their freedom to do so. They both found Bigfoot tracks and obvious signs of manipulating large trees and branches. A very large structure was found that was built with very large, long logs. They were elevated a good 10 feet off the ground or more. It looked like a Bigfoot forest person was playing with large-sized Lincoln logs. SOIA was conveniently located much closer to home, and therefore I could visit it more frequently. I would drive out to SOIA for day trips and spend a couple of hours at a time. While sitting out in the base camp, I would read from my Bible to the Bigfoot forest people. Sometimes I would hike away from the base camp to go see if I could find any new evidence. I also needed the exercise. One time, as I was hiking back to the base camp, I swear there must have been about 100 tree knocks sounding off in and around the base camp area. By the time I returned to the base camp, it was silent. I know I wasn't hearing things because Zeus, my 6-pound toy fox terrier, heard the tree. It was like an iron butterfly In-Gata-Da-Vida drum solo. In the midst of all the excitement regarding the new research area, my silent supporter, Cynthia, has had to live vicariously through all of my online reports, YouTube videos, and our daily telephone conversations. Maintaining a 400-mile long-distance relationship has most definitely been challenging, but not impossible. It's been especially hard on Cynthia not to be present and share in the ongoing developments in my relationship building with the Bigfoot forest people. Unfortunately, there's this thing called reality, which requires us to have jobs and pay bills. I've been blessed to have her support while transitioning back to Grants Pass during the past year in order to be closer to Grady. Hopefully, she will join me soon in Southern Oregon. In April of 2016, Cynthia informed me that she was going to be able to take some time off to join me in SOIA. Needless to say, I was excited for her to have the opportunity to come south, spend some time with me, and spend some time with our Bigfoot Forest People family. If anyone deserved to be there and enjoy the experiences, it was her. I was looking forward to spending this time with Cynthia in SOIA before we drove back north and hosted our annual Bigfoot University Conference in Bremerton, Washington. Little did I know, Onks had some exciting plans in store for us as well. That's the end of Chapter 22, entitled The Southern Oregon Interaction Area, Your Introduction to SOIA. We go on to Chapter 23, The Bigfoot Agenda Revealed. You've been listening to the reading of Bigfoot, A 50-Year Journey Come Full Circle by Dr. Matthew A. Johnson. I'm Willie Rose.